I fell in love with my bodyguard. No matter how hard I tried to seduce him, he remained unmoved. But when he saw me with another man, he went crazy with jealousy. He pinned me against his arm, holding my hands behind my back. Call me sweet baby. At the party, the age-old game of truth or dare remains unchanged. The bottle spins a few rounds, finally pointing towards the most inconspicuous spot on the sofa. No one told me that tonight's main character was Ethan. Nor did anyone mention that the bodyguard who had guarded me for 2 years had suddenly turned into a scion of a noble family. Tonight's gathering has me on pins and needles. After all, I had not been easy on Ethan back in the day. Even my friends said, if Ethan ever makes it big, you'll be the first one to bite the dust. At that moment, the person seated on the sofa calmly responded with one word, truth. It was a fairly standard question. But the one asking was trembling even as he spoke. Mr. Green, what's the most heart-racing sweet nothing you've ever heard? The room quieted down, all eyes on Ethan. I was wearing a navy blue miniskirt, and Mr. Smith, reeking of alcohol, stealthily rested his hand on my right leg. I clenched my teeth. Just then, a deep voice caught my ear. He mimicked the tone I had used years ago and said, "Tears are a man's nylons, Ethan, cry for me." Seconds later, the room erupted with gossip-fueled gasps. I was utterly stunned. This is hard to judge. After all, when I straddled Ethan and said that line back then, he remained composed. His voice only dropped a notch as he warned me, "Are you not afraid that one day I'll bring you to the pinnacle and make you scream for mercy?" Shamelessly, I retorted, "How would you do it? In the bedroom or on the sofa?" Currently, I'm only focused on escaping those groping hands, unable to reflect on the past. Mr. Smith is a business partner I need to negotiate with. Flipping out now would render all recent efforts futile. When the bottle pointed at me, the hand on my leg quickly retracted. I breathed a sigh of relief. I choose dare. Out of the corner of my eye, Ethan casually leaned back on the sofa. His attractive face hidden under the dim light, idly fidgeting with a lighter. His whole demeanor exuded an untamed wildness. Someone suggested, "Why don't you make a demand, Mr. Green?" My back stiffened, breaking out in a cold sweat. The cigarette between Ethan's fingers lit up, flickering on and off. He slowly called out my name. "Sophie." He ground my name between his lips harshly. I had envisioned all kinds of awkward scenarios. Unexpectedly, he said, "Come here. Sit on my lap." The scene momentarily turned chaotic. Mr. Smith's face paled. Interactions in the business world are different. These people detest those who can't play along and those who break their word. My mind was foggy, unsure how I ended up sitting on Ethan's lap. His hand rested on my waist, the warmth of his palm penetrating the silk fabric to my skin. Ethan tilted his head and asked the person behind me, "Is this Mr. Smith's girlfriend?" "No. Not." Hearing this, he smirked, "Then Mr. Smith surely doesn't mind, right?" "Of course not. Mr. Green, do as you wish." I pursed my lips, my hand resting lightly on Ethan's stomach. As I struggled to stand up, he swiftly pulled me back down onto his lap. He spoke again, his voice much calmer, emotionless. But I knew, he was angry. "Is that so? But I do mind." He left his sentence hanging, not specifying what bothered him, leaving it open to interpretation. I was practically carried away by Ethan. The disparity in strength between men and women made my resistance insignificant. Inside the hotel, he pressed me into the bathtub. With a turn of the faucet, hot water cascaded down. The temperature rose, instantly filling the room with steam. "Ethan, what are you doing? Are you insane?" I struggled, pushing against him, splashing water everywhere. His face stern, he didn't answer, instead slipping into the bathtub beside me. Trapped by him, I could hardly move. Both of us, wet in this confined space. The tight contours of muscles beneath Ethan's shirt were faintly visible. He grasped my ankle, bending my right leg, the shower head relentlessly targeting the same spot. It took me a while to realize. That was where Mr. Smith had touched me. Ethan had always possessed a strong possessive urge towards what he deemed as his. But from the beginning, I wasn't his, and he certainly didn't seem to favor me. Force wouldn't work, so I tried a softer approach. Abandoning my brash demeanor, my tone softened as I tugged at his collar. "Ethan, are you jealous?"